Wictor from the latest season of Love is Blind Sweden is weaponizing his incompetence against Nathalie. He seems like such a lazy person, doesn't have a brain of his own, and he's making it Nathalie's problem. And it seems like the main issue in the relationship is that he's boring, she's also boring, and he's basically like, hold on a minute, there can't be two boring people in the relationship. And because I'm so comfortable doing minimal emotional labor and being boring and everybody else being my entertainment and having women be the bubbly ones and tap dance for me, I'm not satisfied with you also being boring despite me being boring. I'm not going to go out and get a personality. I'm not going to go out and find some entertainment. Instead, I'm going to make that your issue, Nathalie. Because how dare you come to the relationship being boring, and now because I'm also boring, now I'm bored. How dare you, Nathalie? So yeah, it seems like he wants this bubbly wife that's going to tap dance for him, that's going to be his entertainment, that's going to be doing all of the emotional labor in the relationship. And it seems like he's not satisfied with this. And like I said, he's making it Nathalie's problem. He's doing up sly digs. He's comparing her to other women. He's like, oh, the other girls are so bubbly and carefree. It's never a dull moment with them. And then basically says, but you're not one of those girls. He's also complaining about having to ask questions and having to feel the silence and feeling like he has to feel the silence. And to me, it's giving very much only boy syndrome. Like the entitlement is giving very much only boy syndrome. We haven't met all of his family, but I'm pretty sure he's the only boy, right? And he's constantly comparing Nathalie to his mother and his sister, who are, suit the bill of what he's looking for, which is a bubbly, outgoing woman. And I knew in the pause when he basically says that he likes to listen, he doesn't really like to be the one asking the questions, he just likes to listen. I knew that was a red flag. And I feel like a lot of men are hopping onto this performative empathy listener train because they don't want to do the labor of having to be the entertainment, having to hold the conversation. It's giving he constantly wants to be entertained. And it's giving lazy. And as I was saying, it seems like this guy does not have a mind of his own. He's asking Ola, of all people, for advice. And the fact that he looked up to Ola, again, kind of says it all. Like, the quality of men this season is very dire. Very dire. Because he was talking about like the boringness and the fact that he has to now create his own entertainment was killing him so bad because he's so lazy that he was just going to break up with Nathalie. But he went to talk to Ola and basically express the situation, and Ola encouraged him to keep going. So now he's sticking with Nathalie. And can I just say, I feel like the only reason Ola encouraged him to stay with Nathalie is because he finds Nathalie attractive because she has the long, thick black hair that he was talking about. Well, the long, thick dark hair that he was talking about. And that he didn't really care, what he expressed. I mean, what he expressed was a bit stupid, to be honest. But I think that's probably the main reason why he was encouraging him to continue the relationship. Like, even when they came to the whole engagement party, he was talking about how they were the best looking couple, and it's giving like he wished Millie looked like her. But anyway, back to Wictor. Like I said, he doesn't have a mind of his own. It seems like he's just copying what people around him are doing, and I feel like him even getting married is a sign of that. Like, maybe his friends are starting to get married, so now he feels like he needs to get married, or maybe he feels like because he's now a certain age, he has to get married because that's what everybody else is doing. He basically, in the pause, he was talking about, when I grew up, I lived in another country for a bit, so I want to do that. I want to live, where my family live. And it kind of just seems like he's treating this marriage like he's playing The Sims. And Nathalie, I'm not gonna lie, Nathalie seems a bit clueless, to be honest. And she just seems to just be going along with it, and I'm very confused. Especially since she kind of expressed doubts when she saw him in the pods. I'm just confused. Because he wasn't wrong about them being a boring couple, I do have to say. So I'm just like, what are the things that they have in common here? Other than both being boring. But anyway, Nathalie seems to just be going along with things. Initially, he said that he was going to move to Stockholm. But now they're moving where he's living and basically saying if they don't like it, then they will move to Stockholm. That's very sneaky. That's very sneaky, and to me it seems like his plan is never to move to Stockholm. He's going to move her over to whatever town he lives at, and then if she says that she wants to move back to Stockholm, he's going to be like, oh, but we've been here, it's going to be so hard to move, like the logistics, blah blah blah, like my family's here, blah blah blah. That from time they were going to move to Stockholm and now they're moving to where he's going to live, I don't like it. It's very fishy. On top of that, I feel like he's very manipulative, because after the whole talk with Ola, after he was going to break up with Nathalie for being boring, he's talking about how he really cares about her and how he basically just wants them to be in the relationship together and fight for this relationship together and how it's a team effort. Literally 5 minutes before, he was telling Ola how he wants to break up with Nathalie for being boring. Then he's talking about the things that he said about basically cussing her out about her being boring is coming from a place of insecurity. I'm not sure what it was, but he started talking about how he feels insecure. I'm not sure whether that was because that was his justification for saying what he said in terms of justifying comparing her to other girls, or whether that was just in general about basically talking about how he feels like he isn't validated by her. I feel like that's what he was alluding to. I'm confused about which option it was, but it's giving that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And again, I'm just confused why he's talking about insecurity and why he's making that her problem when he's literally just been going around saying that she's boring and saying that he wants to break up with her. And then when she comes back to basically say that she loves him and giving him all this validation that he was asking for, now he's saying, oh, he feels weird because he feels like he can't say it back. Strange. And again, we see this kind of manipulative behavior from him in the pods when he was basically pushing Nathalie to share like something traumatic about her, because I guess there's this culture in the pods of like trauma dumping to get close to each other, which I don't agree with. And he kept pressing her on it despite her being clearly distressed when she was basically, thinking about her trauma, and then basically saying that he was disappointed and basically calling her fake because she didn't want to reveal her trauma on national TV to a guy that she's just met. I've said it before, I don't agree with this culture of trauma dumping on Love is Blind, and I don't feel like for a romantic connection to be valid or viable, or even a marriage to be viable, you now need to know all of your partner's deepest and darkest secrets and deepest and darkest traumas. I feel like it's widely insensitive for people to push for people to share their trauma when they're clearly distressed about it. Like, even just thinking about it, you can see that they're distressed. And unfortunately, we're living in a pretty fucked up world out there. So the amount of traumas that people have out here, I think it's understandable why some people might not want to share certain traumas. And on top of that, let's be real, a lot of people are bad mind out here and will use people's traumas to trigger them and will use people's traumas to manipulate them. And that's what Wictor definitely gives. I feel like he wanted information from Nathalie to manipulate her in the future, because he can see that she's distressed about her trauma, and emphasizing that they needed to connect, they needed to grow. She now reveals her trauma, and the trauma was about dealing with a relative with addiction issues and basically how she's still dealing with that trauma now, but she's, getting help for it, she's getting therapy for it. She packaged it pretty lightly, but of course, dealing with someone with addiction issues is very traumatic. All for him to come out with his trauma being that he had a bad breakup and he lost weight. Be fucking for real. So for me, Wictor just gives very unserious, lazy vibes. And for somebody who allegedly doesn't like to speak, he sure does love to talk a lot of shit. So yeah, overall, this coupling is very confusing to me. I think that Wictor is very audacious, but Nathalie going along with it is a bit weird as well. Like, him casually throwing shots and her not reacting was weird. But I gotta hear your thoughts on this whole relationship and Wictor's conduct.